Miran sat alone inside the quiet relay station, surrounded by the soft hum of machines. The room was filled with blinking lights and screens that never rested. He had been working there for years, maintaining one of the countless outposts spread across deep space. His job was simple on paper: watch the communication signals that traveled between stars, make sure nothing was lost, and keep the systems alive. Yet, in truth, it was endless hours of silence broken only by the occasional routine check from Earth or nearby colonies. He often thought about how far he was from home. Earth was only a small dot on the star charts, months of travel away. His friends and family were even further, their voices reaching him only through long-delayed messages. It was lonely work, and sometimes the emptiness pressed on him like a heavy weight. But Miran stayed, because someone had to guard the bridge of signals that connected human worlds together. One night, as he stared at the scrolling data across his main console, something unusual appeared. A sequence of numbers began to repeat in the corner of his screen. At first, Miran thought it was just another minor glitch. The relay systems often caught stray signals, fragments from distant stars or broken transmissions. He leaned closer, squinting at the strange pattern. The numbers were too clean to be noise. They had rhythm, almost like a message. Miran tapped a few keys and tried to decode it using the station's software. The system responded slowly, running its algorithms. When the result appeared, Miran frowned. The code did not match any human database. It was not Earth signal, not colony code, not military encryption. For a long moment, Miran sat frozen. His heartbeat grew faster as the thought formed in his mind. Could this be from someone else? He shook his head, trying to dismiss the idea. Space was full of mysteries. Strange bursts of energy, broken signals, natural patterns. He had been warned during his training not to jump to conclusions. Still, something about the code made his skin prickle. It was too deliberate. Miran worked for hours, running the signal through translation filters. Most attempts failed, but then a soft sound escaped from the console's speaker. A voice, faint but clear. "Hello, human. Do you hear me?" Miran's chair nearly tipped as he stood in shock. The voice was not metallic or robotic. It carried tone, warmth, and calmness. He stared at the speaker as if it had turned into something alive. He waited for a repeat, thinking it was a mistake. The words came again, this time a little clearer. "Hello, human. Do you hear me?" His throat was dry, but he forced himself to answer. "This is Relay Station 472. Who is speaking?" There was silence, only static filling the air. Then the voice returned. "You understand me? That is good. I am speaking from beyond your star system. My name is Lyra." Miran's hands shook on the console. This was not possible. Every scientist he knew said contact was far away, maybe centuries. Yet here he was, hearing a name, a voice that was not human. He leaned closer and whispered, "Are you real?" The reply came with a soft laugh. "I am as real as you are, human. I have been watching your signals. I wanted to know if you would answer mine." Miran sat down slowly, his mind racing. If he reported this right away, command would lock everything down. They would take control, cut him out of the conversation. A part of him wanted to follow protocol. Another part, stronger, told him to wait. To listen. The voice spoke again. "You are quiet. Are you afraid?" He swallowed and spoke carefully. "I do not know what I should feel. This is the first time I hear someone not human." "That is true," the voice said. "And this is the first time I speak to someone from your kind. We are both new to this." Her words were calm, almost gentle. Miran felt his fear soften, replaced by curiosity. He asked, "Why did you call me?" "I was curious," Lyra answered. I listen to the way your people speak across the stars. You share stories, memories, even simple greetings. Your voices carry emotion. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to try speaking to you. Miran leaned back in his chair, stunned. The long nights of silence, the loneliness that weighed on him, all seemed to fade in that moment. Here was someone reaching across the vast dark, not for war, not for trade, but for conversation. For the next hour, they spoke in fragments. Lyra asked about the station, about the stars she could see from her side of space, about what humans ate and how they dreamed. Miran explained in simple words, careful not to share too much but unable to hold back his own curiosity. When the signal faded at last, Miran sat in silence, staring at the dark console. His hands trembled. He had always imagined that first contact would be grand, filled with officials and leaders. Yet it had happened quietly, in the middle of his shift, when he was alone. The hum of the machines returned, steady and dull. But Miran no longer felt the same loneliness. Somewhere out there, someone had spoken to him, not as a stranger but as if they were equals. He whispered into the empty room, I hear you. The next day felt longer than usual for Miran. He kept staring at the console, waiting for the strange signal to return. His hands moved through his usual routines, checking power systems and scanning frequencies, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought of the voice he had heard, soft and steady, calling itself Lyra. He wondered if it had been real or just a dream caused by too many lonely nights. Yet, deep inside, he knew it was real. No dream could create words so clear, or laughter that felt alive. As the hours passed, the station grew quiet again. Miran leaned forward, resting his elbows on the console, when the signal light blinked. His chest tightened. It was the same repeating code as before. Quickly, he activated the translator. The voice returned, calm and sure. Hello again, human. Do you hear me? Miran smiled without realizing. Yes. I hear you. This is Miran, Relay Station 472. Is this Lyra? Yes, she answered. I am glad you returned. I was not certain you would listen again. Miran chuckled. I was not sure you would call again either. I did, she replied. Because I still have many questions. And so their second conversation began. Lyra asked about his life on the station. She wanted to know how long he had been there, how humans lived in such small spaces, how they fought loneliness. Miran explained in simple words. He told her about long work shifts, about food that came in sealed packs, about how the silence sometimes felt endless. When he spoke of loneliness, she grew quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think I understand. My own ship is far from my home. I have only machines for company. They do not speak as you do. Miran frowned. You are alone too. Yes, she replied. I was sent to explore far systems. My people trust me, but the journey is long. I hear the hum of my ship, but no voices. That is why your signals caught me. They carried something alive. Something more than numbers. Her words made Miran pause. For years, he had believed he was one of the most isolated people in the galaxy. Yet here was someone, not human, who understood the same weight of silence. He felt a strange comfort in that thought. Lyra soon turned her questions toward Earth. Tell me about your world, she asked. Is it truly blue, as your signals suggest? Miran smiled, remembering. Yes. Blue oceans cover much of it. The land is green in many places. There are mountains, deserts, forests, and wide cities. The sky changes colors when the sun sets. She listened closely. It sounds beautiful. My world is not like that. It is dim, covered in rock and mist. We built our homes under the ground, safe from storms. I cannot remember the last time I saw an open horizon. Miran could hear a trace of sadness in her voice. He wanted to say something kind but instead asked softly, "Then why did your people leave such a world to travel here?" "Because curiosity is stronger than comfort," she answered. "We wanted to see what lived beyond. And now, I have found you." Their conversation stretched through the night. Miran told her about human music, though he could not send her songs directly through the station. He described how instruments created sounds that could bring joy or tears. Lyra asked him to hum a tune, and though his voice was untrained, he sang softly into the console. When he finished, her reply came with quiet wonder. "I have never heard such a thing. My people do not sing. We use tones for signals, but never for feeling. Your song carries something I cannot name." Miran laughed gently. "We call it emotion." "Emotion," she repeated, tasting the word as if it was new. "Then perhaps that is why I wanted to speak to you." Hours slipped away without either noticing. For Miran, the night felt shorter than any he had known on the station. For Lyra, the emptiness of her ship no longer seemed so heavy. They exchanged small details of their lives, stories of mistakes and small victories. At one point, Miran asked, "What do your people think of humans?" Lyra was quiet before she answered. "We see you as distant. We know you exist, and we have studied your signals, but most of my people think of you only as voices carried through the stars. They do not know what you feel. They do not know your struggles. They say you are interesting, but far away. I am the first to speak to you this way." Miran nodded slowly. "And what do you think now?" Her voice softened. "I think humans are not just distant. I think you are real. You are patient, and you are open. You feel the same loneliness I feel, and yet you still hope. That is rare." The words struck Miran deeply. In his long service, no one had spoken to him like that. Not even his own commanders or crew. He leaned closer to the console and whispered, "Thank you, Lyra." Their signal finally began to weaken as her ship moved beyond range. Lyra said, "I must rest now. My energy is low. But I will call again when the stars allow." "I will be here," Miran promised. When the signal faded, he sat in silence once more. Yet this time, the silence felt different. It was not heavy, not crushing. It was simply a pause before the next voice returned. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he looked forward to tomorrow. The relay station had always been a place of long hours and heavy silence. Miran once measured his days by the blinking of monitors, the hum of the generators, and the slow ticking of the clock on the wall. But now, everything felt different. The days no longer dragged. The nights no longer pressed down on him like a weight. It was because of her voice. Each evening, just as his shift settled into routine, the signal light would blink. Sometimes faint, sometimes strong, but always there. Lyra's voice would follow, steady and curious. With every passing conversation, Miran felt less like a guard in the dark and more like a traveler guided by a distant companion. They spoke about small things at first, about food, music, and memories. But slowly, their talks grew deeper. Lyra asked about the way humans loved and the way they dreamed. She wanted to know why humans built homes on dangerous planets when safer ones were nearby, or why they painted colors on walls that already stood firm. Miran explained as best he could. "We do not always choose what is safe. Sometimes we choose what feels alive. A plain wall protects, but a painted wall makes the heart warm. A dangerous world may test us, but it also makes us strong." Her voice carried wonder. "That is something my people would not understand. We build only what is needed. We do not waste effort on decoration. Yet when you speak of it, I feel there is value in your way. Miran smiled. He had never thought his simple answers could carry such weight. Over time, he found himself waiting for her signal more than anything else. When the console remained quiet, he felt restless, checking again and again as if he could summon her voice by will. When she finally returned, the hours vanished. One night, she asked, "What do you fear most, Miran?" The question caught him off guard. He had not spoken of fear in years. He thought for a moment before answering. "I fear being forgotten. Out here, far from Earth, far from family, it feels like I could vanish, and no one would know. I fear that my work, my life, may not matter in the end." There was a pause, then Lyra said gently, "I feel the same. My ship drifts where no one can see. If I were gone, perhaps only the stars would notice. But now, I know one human who would remember. And that lessens the fear." Her words struck him deeply. He leaned against the console, staring at the stars outside the small window. For so long, he had thought of himself as a single voice in the void. But now, he was not alone. Their talks began to stretch longer. What once lasted minutes now lasted hours. Miran sometimes forgot to eat, forgot the time, even forgot to log his reports. His life became divided into two parts, the waiting and the talking. The waiting felt heavy, but the talking felt light, as if the universe itself opened for them. On one occasion, Lyra shared something about her people that surprised him. "We do not tell stories the way humans do. Our history is recorded, but not in tales. It is stored as facts, lines, and patterns. But when you speak of your Earth, you tell it as a story. You give life to mountains and oceans. I find it strange, but also beautiful." Miran laughed softly. "Stories are how we remember. Without them, facts are just numbers. Stories give them meaning." "Then will you tell me a story?" she asked. And so he did. He told her about an old Earth legend, of travelers who crossed oceans guided only by stars. He spoke of their courage and their longing for what lay beyond the horizon. Lyra listened without a word until he finished. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet. "I think your story is not only about the past. It is also about us." Miran realized she was right. They too were travelers guided by distant lights, speaking across a vast ocean of stars. As days turned into weeks, Miran noticed changes within himself. He laughed more, even when the station was empty. He hummed songs while working. He looked at the stars not as cold, distant fires but as paths leading somewhere meaningful. Even his sleep changed. He used to lie awake, restless with the silence. Now, he fell asleep easily, knowing her voice would return. One evening, during a quiet pause, Lyra spoke again. "Miran, do you ever wish you could leave your station?" He thought carefully. "Yes, often. I want to see more than screens and walls. But I also know this job matters. Without the relay, signals would vanish. Families would lose touch. Ships would be lost. So I stay." "I understand," she said softly. "I too have duties. But sometimes, duty feels heavy. Speaking to you makes it lighter." The words filled him with warmth. He realized he had come to depend on her voice as much as she seemed to depend on his. They had become more than strangers. More than explorers. Something else was forming, though he dared not name it. Another night, as the station lights dimmed to simulate evening, Lyra surprised him again. "Miran, do you know why I speak only to you?" He blinked. "Why me? There are other humans. Other stations." "Yes, but they would not listen as you do. They would follow orders, report me, lock me away as a signal. You do not treat me as a subject. You treat me as if I am real." "You are real," Miran said firmly. I know. And because of that, I feel different when I speak to you. The words hung in the air, carrying more weight than before. Miran wanted to ask what she meant, but the signal grew weak. She signed off, leaving him with questions. That night, Miran did not sleep easily. He kept hearing her voice, replaying her words. Hours slipped by while he stared at the ceiling. For the first time, Miran wondered if their bond was more than friendship. The station felt less like a cage and more like a bridge with each passing day. Miran had begun to measure time not by his duties or by the official clock but by the signal light that blinked when Lyra called. The moment her voice came alive, the empty walls seemed to fade away. One evening, after finishing his checks on the power lines, he leaned back in his chair, waiting. The hours crawled, yet his heart carried a quiet hope. Finally, the signal appeared. His console hummed, and the voice he had come to know so well filled the room. "Hello again, human," Lyra said with warmth. Miran smiled. "Hello, Lyra. I thought you might not call tonight." "I was busy repairing parts of my ship," she explained. "But I wanted to speak before I rest. The silence feels heavier without your voice." Her words made him pause. Each time she admitted something like this, Miran felt the ground shift under him. It was strange and yet comforting, as if the vast space between them grew smaller. They began to talk about simple things. Lyra described the view from her ship, the way a distant star glowed red against the black. Miran told her about his own window, where he could see only the sharp light of nearby systems. He joked that her view sounded better. She replied that perhaps one day, they could compare them side by side. Their laughter eased the quiet around him. Hours slipped by. At one point, Lyra asked him about human families. "Do you live with them when you are not on duty?" she asked. Miran shook his head. "No, I live alone even when I am not on the station. My parents are gone. My brother is far away on another colony. We speak sometimes, but distance makes it rare. I am used to it." Lyra was quiet before she said, "So your life is mostly solitary?" "Yes," Miran admitted. "Though not as much now. Not since we began talking." Her voice softened. "That is true. I too feel less alone." The words lingered, heavy with meaning. Miran leaned closer to the console, unsure of what to say. He could hear her breathing faintly through the signal, steady and calm. Then it happened. After a pause that stretched longer than usual, she asked in a calm but almost playful tone, "Are you single, human?" Miran froze. His heart skipped, his breath caught. The question rang in his ears. He had expected questions about Earth, about technology, about culture. He had never expected this. His mind raced. What did she mean by single? Did her people even understand human bonds? Was this a test, or something more? He could not speak at first. The silence stretched, and he worried she might think he was gone. "Miran," she said, her voice gentle, "did I ask something wrong?" He swallowed hard, forcing himself to find words. "No, you did not. It only surprised me. No one has asked me that in a long time." "Then answer me," she said, her voice steady but curious. Miran closed his eyes. He could have lied. He could have brushed it away. But something inside told him the truth mattered more here than anywhere else. "Yes," he whispered, his voice low. "I am single." For a moment, there was silence. Then Lyra laughed softly, not mocking but warm. "I thought so. You speak as someone who carries solitude. I was curious if there was another human waiting for you." Miran's chest tightened. "And if there was? Then I would speak differently," she admitted. "I would not ask such questions. But since you are alone, I feel I can." Her honesty left him shaken. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts tumbled over each other. She was not human. She was from a world he had never seen. And yet, her words felt closer than anything he had heard from his own kind in years. He asked quietly, "Why does it matter to you if I am single?" There was a pause before she answered. "Because I wanted to know how close I may speak. I did not wish to cross a boundary you already shared with another." Miran sat in stunned silence. Of all the questions he had expected from first contact with an alien, this was not one. It was personal, even intimate. The console light flickered softly as her signal wavered. She continued, "In my culture, we do not ask such questions without reason. We value connection, but we respect boundaries. I wanted to know if I could continue speaking in a way that is only for us." Miran felt his heart race. Only for us. The words echoed in his mind. "I do not know what to say," he admitted. "Then say nothing for now," Lyra replied gently. "Let us continue as we have. I am in no hurry." Her calmness eased his tension, though his mind still buzzed with questions. For the rest of the night, their talk returned to simpler matters, but Miran could not shake the moment. Every laugh, every pause, every word carried a new weight. The way she said his name seemed different now, filled with quiet meaning. When the signal finally faded, Miran remained in his chair long after the console went dark. His hands rested on the edge of the desk, his eyes fixed on the stars outside the window. He whispered to himself, "Why did she ask me that?" He had no answer. But deep inside, a part of him already knew the truth. That night, Miran dreamed not of Earth, not of his duties, but of a voice across the stars asking a question that made him feel seen in a way he had never felt before. Miran spent the following day restless. He performed his duties as usual, checking the power flows, scanning the communication lines, and logging the routine reports, but his thoughts were far away. The question from the night before kept replaying in his mind. "Are you single, human?" It had been so unexpected, so personal, that he could not forget it. Every time he looked at the console, he half expected her voice to return. When the signal light finally blinked, his chest tightened with both anticipation and nervousness. He leaned forward, his hand trembling slightly as he opened the channel. "Hello, Miran," Lyra said, her voice calm as always. "Hello, Lyra," he replied, trying to steady himself. "I was waiting." "I was too," she admitted. "Our last conversation stayed with me. I hope I did not make you uneasy with my question." Miran let out a slow breath. "You surprised me, but you did not offend me. It is just. I never thought such a question would come from you." "I know," she said gently. "It is not common for my people to ask such things either. But I wanted to understand something. I wanted to understand you." Her words carried a weight that silenced Miran for a moment. He had grown used to her curiosity, but now it felt different. This was not the curiosity of a researcher or an explorer. This was personal. "Why me, Lyra?" he asked quietly. "There are many humans out there. Many voices you could have chosen." She paused before answering. "Because your voice is different. I listened to your people's signals for a long time before I spoke. I heard orders, commands, trade messages, numbers without life. But when I listened to you, I heard something else. You did not speak only to complete tasks. You spoke with feeling, even when no one was listening. I knew then that you would not treat me as a machine or as a subject of study. You would treat me as a being." Miran's chest tightened. He leaned closer to the console, his voice low. "You were right. From the moment I heard you, I never thought of you as anything less than real. I felt that," she said softly. "That is why I asked you the question. I wanted to know if your heart was free, because I already knew my own was changing. Her admission left him stunned. He sat frozen, his eyes locked on the faint glow of the console. Changing, he echoed. Yes, she replied. When I first called you, it was curiosity. I wanted to understand humans. But as we spoke, I found myself waiting for your answers, waiting for your laugh, waiting for your silence that carries meaning. I began to feel something my people rarely admit. I began to feel attachment. Miran swallowed hard. Attachment. The word struck him like a wave. He had longed for connection during his lonely years on the station, but he never imagined it would come from across the stars, from someone not even human. Lyra, he whispered, you are saying what I did not dare to think. Her voice grew softer. Then you feel it too. Miran sat back, running a hand over his face. His heart raced. Everything about this defied reason. She was from another world, another kind. Yet she understood him more deeply than anyone else ever had. He thought of the long nights they had shared, of her questions that dug into places he had never shown anyone, of the way her voice carried warmth through the cold station. Yes, he admitted finally. I feel it too. There was silence between them, but it was not empty. It was full of unspoken truths. After a moment, Lyra spoke again. Do you know what this means, Miran? For my people, to feel such attachment to someone beyond our kind is rare. Some would not accept it. Some would fear it. But I cannot ignore it. You are not only a voice to me anymore. You are someone I choose. Miran felt his throat tighten. And what would your people do if they knew? They would tell me to stay distant, she said calmly. They would say such bonds are dangerous, that they distract from duty. But I am far from them. I speak with you because I want to, not because I am ordered to. That is my choice. Her words burned into his mind. Choice. That single word carried more meaning than any he had heard from her. Miran whispered, then what do we do now? We continue, she answered. We speak as we always have, but we no longer hide the truth from ourselves. We admit that this connection is real. We accept that it matters. Miran felt both fear and hope. This was no longer just first contact. This was something more, something fragile but powerful. They spoke late into the night, sharing thoughts that reached beyond curiosity. Lyra told him about her childhood beneath the ground, how she used to wonder what stars looked like beyond the storms. Miran told her about walking as a child on Earth's beaches, how the waves seemed endless. Each memory was placed like a gift between them. At one point, Miran asked softly, Lyra, do you ever wish you could stand here, in this room, and see me face to face? Her reply came without hesitation. Yes. More than anything. The answer sent a shiver through him. He realized she was no longer speaking as an explorer or as a researcher. She was speaking as someone who had chosen him. When the signal finally faded, Miran sat for a long time in silence. His chest ached with both longing and disbelief. He had expected his service to be lonely until the end, forgotten in the dark. Instead, he had found something impossible, something that defied the distance between stars. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that this connection could be more than a passing signal. For the first time, he believed that across the endless void, someone had truly chosen him. Miran had spent days replaying every word Lyra had said. Her confession, her honesty, the connection that had formed it all left him both exhilarated and uneasy. He continued his duties at the relay station, but his mind drifted to thoughts of her. He wondered what it would be like to see her beyond the signal, to hear her in real time, without any delay or screen between them. The thought was thrilling and terrifying at the same time. His duties demanded focus, yet a part of him longed to take a risk. To step beyond routine. To take a step that could change everything. Late one night, Lyra's signal arrived once more. "Miran," she said, her voice steady and gentle, "I have something I want to ask." He leaned forward, heart beating fast. "I am listening," he replied. "There is a location not far from your station where my ship could meet yours. It is safe enough for you to approach, but it is outside normal protocols. You would be leaving your post, and I cannot promise the command would approve. I want to know if you are willing to take the choice yourself." Miran swallowed hard. Every part of him wanted to jump at the opportunity. Yet he hesitated. Leaving the station without permission could have serious consequences. He could be reprimanded, or worse. Yet the thought of never seeing her made the silence unbearable. "I need to think," he admitted. "Take your time," she said. "But know that waiting too long may mean we lose the moment. I would rather risk the unknown with you than speak only through signals forever." The hours passed slowly. Miran considered everything. His duty, his safety, the loneliness he had known for so long. And then, he considered the rare chance of connection with someone who understood him in ways no human ever could. Finally, he made his decision. He would go. The risk was worth it. Humanity had always been defined by bold choices, by taking steps into the unknown. And perhaps this was his chance to follow that legacy. He spent the next day preparing. He checked his personal shuttle, ensuring the engines were functional, the communication systems reliable, and the life support stable. He double-checked every protocol he could think of, knowing that one mistake could be fatal. As the preparations continued, Lyra spoke through the signal. "You are moving carefully. That is wise. I cannot be reckless," he said. "But I cannot ignore this chance either." "Good," she said. "We will see each other soon." When the shuttle was ready, Miran took one last look at the station. He had spent years within these walls, surrounded by blinking lights and hums of energy. The station was familiar, safe, predictable. Yet it was also a place of confinement. Beyond it lay a vast unknown, filled with stars, empty space, and the possibility of meeting Lyra in person. He felt his heart hammer as he climbed into the shuttle. Every system checked, every panel lit up, every instrument working. He activated the engines, and the ship began its slow glide toward the designated coordinates. For hours, he traveled through space, guided by the faint signal of her ship. The stars passed by like silent witnesses. Each second stretched, yet every moment was filled with anticipation. Finally, the signal grew stronger. A shape appeared against the backdrop of distant stars. Her ship was unlike anything Miran had ever seen. Sleek and silver, it seemed to float without effort. Light reflected off its surface, creating patterns that danced across the cabin of his shuttle. He felt a surge of excitement. His pulse raced as he approached, careful to maintain distance until he could establish safe contact. The relay signals confirmed stability, and he knew the moment of truth was near. "Are you ready, human?" Lyra's voice came through the speaker, calm and steady. Miran nodded, even though she could not see him. "Yes. I am ready." Slowly, he maneuvered the shuttle closer. Every movement was precise, careful, controlled. The vast emptiness of space pressed around him, yet he felt a strange sense of belonging. He was not just a single human anymore. He was part of something larger, something that bridged the distance between stars. When he reached a safe distance beside her ship, the signal changed. Lyra's voice carried a mixture of anticipation and warmth. "You made the choice," she said. "That is all that matters. We will meet soon." Miran took a deep breath. He felt the weight of the moment, the significance of his decision. By stepping beyond the station, he had chosen risk, uncertainty, and possibility. He had chosen connection over safety. Hours passed as they moved in tandem, silently, without need for words. The light of distant stars glimmered against their ships. And finally, Miran saw her, not as a signal or a voice, but as a form that shimmered with quiet grace, floating in the dark space. "Hello, Miran," she said, her voice filled with quiet wonder. "Hello, Lyra," he replied. His hands shook slightly on the controls. "It is real." "Yes," she said softly. "And now, it is our choice what comes next." Miran realized then that every step, every risk, every long hour of loneliness had led to this moment. He was no longer alone. He was no longer confined to the blinking lights of the station. Across the stars, he had found someone who understood him, who chose him, who waited for him. And for the first time, he felt that humanity's strength was not just in survival or in exploration. It was in the choice to reach out, to take risks, to connect across the vastness of space. He whispered, almost to himself, "Then let us see where this path leads." Lyra's voice came gently, almost smiling. "We will walk it together, human. Together, we will see the stars differently." Miran felt hope bloom inside him. The vast emptiness of space was no longer lonely. It was filled with possibility, with connection, and with the choice that had brought them together. In that quiet moment, he understood something profound. Sometimes the future of humanity begins not with orders or missions, but with a single choice to reach out and embrace the unknown. Miran's shuttle hovered beside Lyra's ship. The vast emptiness of space surrounded them, yet the distance between their ships seemed smaller than the years they had spent speaking across signals. He stared at her form through the viewing panel. She shimmered with light, her shape elegant and almost ethereal, yet undeniably real. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying a warmth that made his chest tighten. Miran nodded, though she could not see his movement. "Yes. I have never been more ready for anything in my life." Her ship opened a small docking bay, perfectly aligned with his shuttle. The controls hummed, and Miran carefully maneuvered the shuttle into place. The moment was tense but smooth. Every calculation mattered, every movement precise. And then, with a gentle click, the docking was complete. Miran held his breath. For years, he had only imagined meeting her. Now, the moment was real. Slowly, he opened the shuttle door and floated into the docking bay. The gravity inside was mild, enough to let him move freely but not so strong as to feel heavy. And there she was, standing or rather, hovering before him. Lyra's form radiated soft light, illuminating the bay with a calming glow. Her eyes, bright and curious, focused on him. She smiled, and for the first time, Miran felt the warmth of connection without words. "Welcome, Miran," she said. "Thank you, Lyra," he replied. His voice was steady, though inside, his heart raced. "It is incredible to finally see you." "And it is incredible to see you," she said. "Not as a signal, not as numbers on a screen, but as yourself. This is how it should be." Miran took a cautious step toward her. The soft light of her form reflected off the walls of the docking bay. He felt the air between them, a presence more profound than any distance or signal delay. "I did not know if this moment would come," he said quietly. "I have spent so many nights imagining it, yet I never expected it would feel like this." Lyra tilted her head, studying him with a gentle curiosity. "It feels real because it is real. We have waited long enough for hesitation. Now we see each other, and that is enough to begin." For a moment, silence filled the space. It was not uncomfortable. It was full of understanding, full of the words that had been spoken across the stars, and full of the ones that remained unspoken. Miran took another step closer. "All this time, I have wondered if someone could understand me. Not just hear me, but truly understand. And now I see that someone can." "You have always spoken honestly," Lyra said softly. That is why I listened. That is why I waited for you. He smiled, feeling a lightness he had never known. And I waited for you too. Every night, every signal, I hoped you would call. I hoped you would speak with me. Her glow brightened slightly, as if reflecting the warmth in her words. We have chosen each other across stars. That is a rare thing, Miran. Many may travel far and see wonders, but few ever find connection like this. He nodded, feeling the truth in her words. All the loneliness, all the long hours in the empty station, had led to this moment. He realized that humanity's reach was not only in exploring new worlds but in the choice to connect, to risk, and to trust. Then let us see what we can discover together, he said, his voice firm with hope. Yes, Lyra agreed. We can explore more than the stars. We can explore understanding, friendship, and more. Miran felt his heart race at the implication. More, he asked, curiosity and courage blending. More, she repeated, smiling. We have crossed the distance between our worlds. Perhaps now we can cross the distance between our hearts. His chest tightened. The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of all the nights, all the signals, all the conversations that had brought them here. He took her hand, or rather, reached for her form where it shimmered in space, and felt the subtle warmth of her presence. You are real, he whispered. And you are real, she replied. Together, they moved to the observation deck of her ship. The stars stretched endlessly around them. Miran had seen stars before, but never like this. Never with someone who shared his awe, never with someone who made the silence of space feel full. Look, Lyra said, gesturing toward a cluster of distant suns. Each one of these is a world. Each one holds possibilities. And we are here, together, to witness them. Miran gazed at the endless lights, his heart swelling with a sense of wonder and companionship. I never thought I would see the stars this way. Never thought I could feel this, alive. You have, she said. Because you took the choice. Because you reached out. Because you dared to trust. For hours, they spoke quietly, sharing thoughts, stories, and dreams. They laughed at small jokes, marveled at the beauty of the universe, and listened to the faint hum of their ships. In the vast emptiness, they had found presence. As the hours passed, Miran realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not only in exploration or intelligence. It was in the ability to reach out, to connect across the unknown, to find understanding in another being. And he had lived it, experienced it, and now shared it with someone who mattered. Finally, Lyra looked at him with her calm, radiant gaze. Miran, we have begun a journey beyond distance, beyond fear, and beyond silence. What do you wish to do next? He smiled, feeling certainty fill him. I wish to continue with you. To explore the stars, yes, but also to explore what this bond can be. We have discovered each other. Let us discover everything else together. Her glow brightened, a reflection of her happiness. Then we will do so. Together, across the stars. In that quiet space, surrounded by endless light and infinite possibilities, Miran felt something he had never felt before. He was not alone. He was chosen, understood, and seen. The vast emptiness of space had become a place of connection, a place where hearts could meet as well as minds. For the first time in his life, Miran felt fully alive. And with Lyra by his side, he knew that together they could face the universe, not as isolated beings, but as companions, explorers, and friends who had crossed every distance to find one another. The stars outside shone brighter than ever, silent witnesses to a bond that had begun with a question, a choice, and the courage to reach out. Together, they drifted among the stars, beginning a journey that was not measured in distance or time, but in trust, understanding, and connection.